What's up? How are you? We meet again. So in my previous videos, I talked about my first impressions on using Ableton. And I've been avoiding this program pretty much like for the past 20 years. I always saw it as some kind of like complicated, I don't know, like difficult program. I don't even want to mess. Like I tried it before, I didn't like it from like at the first glance, so I was avoiding it and I was using other DAWs. But like 3 weeks ago or so, I thought to myself, you know what? Let's just commit to Ableton and try and make like more music just with Ableton to see how I actually feel about it and like what my thoughts are. And you know what? I really like this program. I think it's like the best program that's out there for making music, and I was so silly to like not even trying it, committing to it earlier, because I also thought that, I want to make something different than from everybody else, and since everybody is pretty much using Ableton, so I thought I'm not gonna use it. Then what like that was a great thought at the time, but right now, I mean, Ableton is so flexible. You can do so many authentic things and still like be able to do things differently. It's all in your head. It's just all and I found that Ableton, like, you can do pretty much everything. So within the last 3 weeks alone, I've probably made over 20 tunes. It's so like inspiring for me. I can't really stop using it. I mean, you can do so many things. You can work with audio, which is good for me when I'm not working with jungle or, for example, doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, but when it comes to jungle, I'm so used to using MIDI when working with my analog hardware that I thought, I made this particular track that I'm going to be showing you today completely in MIDI, and I'm used to the MIDI in my old Cubase, and I wanted to see how far I can, like, how similar I could use Ableton's MIDI when it comes to programming my breaks and stuff. So without further ado, let's jump on my screen and I'll show you what and how I'm using. Right now I'm working with Ableton Lite, which is very limited from the original one. It only allows you to work with no more than 8 tracks or 8 channels, which is absolutely fine by me. I'm used to doing that when working with hardware. Another thing I would like to mention, like the difference that I feel. I mean, it might be obvious for those who already been using Ableton forever. When I work with hardware, I usually normally like spend a bit of a time in preparation for like finding my samples, making my own samples, then like gathering them into one like folder as a sort of like a mini sample pack. And then I would like sample everything into the Akai, chop, create groups, and then start making music. So that whole preparation might take me a good hour or two, including samples, like browsing my samples and making my own samples and sampling everything, chopping stuff inside the Akai, creating key groups, all that kind of stuff takes a bit of a time. And when working inside the Ableton, like, I don't even have to do that. Like, I have big library of 90s sample CDs, sample libraries. I have a bunch of my own samples that I could just load as I go into my sampler, into the program, and just make stuff. And if I feel like I don't like that particular sound, I can just change it, swap it in seconds, and that saves so much time. And it's kind of like, it's all about making music and not doing like administration work, as I like to call it. For this particular track, I'm only using 7 channels, and I'm using AMIGO VST on all of them. And while I use everything inside the computer, I don't mix in Ableton. When it comes to jungle, I just don't really like mixing with plugins. I kind of like, I'm used to doing everything like hands-on experience, so I'm sending like unprocessed sounds from computer to my mixing desk where I do the additional mixing. And just to touch up like quickly, the effects that I'm using on every channel comes from LSS Quadra Verb and Lexicon effects that are like installed in my mixing desk. And also on the master bus, I'm using this Behringer analog compression, just to, I don't know, it's very gentle, but I think it really adds to the sound. And without further ado, let's just quickly jump onto the track. So as you can see, it's pretty simple because like there's not much to do. Oh, by the way, I'd like to say another thing. This is a touch. This is just like a, it's a funny track. It's not a serious track. That doesn't need to be taken too seriously. And while I normally add a lot more melodic and musical elements to my music, this one is just literally me trying out Ableton and to see like how far I can go with it. So I had really fun making it. It's lots of like mashup breaks and stuff, and it's pretty simple in its structure. It might even come across like a bit repetitive compared to what I normally do with my jungle, but at first when I made it, I was like, I don't even understand, like it's a cool track or not, it's just what it's about. But after listening to it for like 30-50 times, because that's what I really love to do after making tracks, I like to listen to them for like forever, non-stop. So after having listened to it for like additional like 30-40 times, I grow on to like it. I think it's kind of crazy, stupid track, but it's kind of cool. So yeah, so on the channel one, obviously I have aim and break, and as you can see, it only has just a couple of chops. I deliberately used the aim and break, which is already of a lo-fi quality, just because I wanted that sort of, you know, lo-fi. We're talking about lo-fi today, and even I've even lowered the sampler rate even more on the AMIGO, as you can see, and just until the sound starts to break completely. So those couple of chops, it's like sounds like that. Simple. On the track 2, I've got bass. And then track 3, just some weird sound effect. I could have used something else, but I kind of, it's alright. It's just a test track anyway. Again, all the delays that you're hearing comes from the Lexicon and LSS Quadro Verb, nothing inside of the computer using plugins. Then just a simple shaker. Another kind of cool sound. I don't even remember where I got it from. I just went through one of those hundreds of folders that I have of my own sounds, and I'm like, yeah, that kind of sounds cool. What else? Oh, that's another break. It only has 2 chops, as simple as it can get. And as you can see, I've lowered the sampler rate as well until it starts kind of break down. And then there's this last sound which I actually sampled from my mate's jungle track. Shout outs to Gear Advisors. And that's it. And these are the sounds that I'm working with. So as I said, this is just a test track to see how comfortable I could be with MIDI and Ableton. And you judge for yourself. Always, comments are welcome. I'm gonna leave you with a track and see you on the next video. Bye.